Hello, welcome to the weekly astrology and spirituality show with Patrick and Elisa Arundel for week commencing the 12th of April. We hope you've had a great week, and of course this week kicks off in sensational fashion with the potency of the Aries new moon. Now, an Aries new moon is particularly vibrant because of the fire energy of Aries, but also it's a cardinal sign, so it's about leadership, and Aries, of course, is the first sign of the Zodiac. So this is very much about using the moon's more intuitive energies to blend with the power and drive of the sun's physical vibration in this sign. And they are forging a terrific angle with Jupiter, which is very much about expansion and good fortune in the sign of Aquarius. However, Pluto, the planet of power, is squaring up this particular new moon. So anything that we're trying to get going, to reinvigorate or to start off, may need to deal with some more conservative energies that are out there. Somebody could push back, but our enthusiasm can win the day, and perhaps also our knowledge, which Jupiter is very much to do with. Now, Elisa, what has the Hermetic Wheel got in store for us this week?
Well, let's pop that wheel on the screen and have a little look at what's going on for us this week. So if we have a little look, we can see that between April the 11th to the 20th, we are in the final decan of Aries. This final decan is, we're getting ready to move on to something new, something fresh. We've had that staying power, we've gone through all those processes, and now we're moving forwards. And we can see by this wheel on the screen that the final decan of Aries is ruled by the Four of Wands. The Four of Wands is probably one of the most joyful cards in the entire tarot deck. Wands is about fire, it's about innovation, and the Four is also about stability. So we're having those ideas matched with some kind of stability. This makes me think of a very secure home with solid foundations, somewhere we can feel safe. It's also to do with family. This could be our blood family or family that we make, through our friends. People that are in our soul tribe or soul group, who we really do have that camaraderie with, who have each other's back. So we could get some good advice from family or friends this week, but definitely a week of, yes, fire, but also stability.
That's lovely. In terms of the astrology, the third decan of Aries, the third 10 degrees, so if you're born in the last 10 degrees of the 30 of Aries, that's governed by Jupiter, which is the ruler of Sagittarius, because each zodiac sign has 3 decans, and they're each governed by the other members of the triplicity of that particular group. So the fire group is governed by Mars in Aries, the Sun is Leo, and Jupiter is Sagittarius. So to go with the Four of Wands that Elisa's speaking about there, we also have that new moon, glorious new moon, linking so harmoniously with Jupiter, but also we get an uplift in that regard from the wider astrology as well. It's just really the role of Pluto. And also this week, in the first few days, Mars is squaring up with Neptune still. And if you have gone through a period of confusion or low energy over the last 10 days, it wouldn't be a surprise, because Mars squaring Neptune can be the trickster combination bar none. We may have encountered someone who's not very honest, or someone who's trying to achieve their desires through nefarious means. It still falls upon us to try to be as straight and transparent as possible to overcome this energy in the first half of the week. But then Venus moves into its home zone of Taurus midweek. So Venus into Taurus is very, very happy here, very sensual. And in a way that links into the Four of Wands, because it's about that foundations. It's about making sure that things are stable in our situations. But if you are an Aries, you could expect some good news financially in the second half of this week. And if you do want to find out what this new moon is going to mean for your zodiac sign, please see the link beneath this video, and you can check out my in-depth deep dive new moon video, which has also got a forecast for each of the 12 zodiac signs. Now, in terms of the mailbag this week, did you pick up anything, Elisa? Because what I saw was somebody was saying, what did we think about COVID jabs? Aren't they being rushed into use without proper check-in? Well, I suppose the answer to that is probably yes. I don't think that's an undeniable fact. But it's a balance, isn't it? Some people will choose not to take them because they feel that's a concern. Other people may feel that there's some kind of conspiracy linked to them in terms of recording our personal information or so on. In Britain, we've never really been ones for identity cards except in times of great crisis. And so having a COVID jab passport is something that a lot of people don't really feel that comfortable with. For me personally, I feel that the drop in the death rate in the UK has been so sensational. It's something that I've been happy to take. That's just how I see it personally. I'm not telling anyone else how to lead their life or their situation. But in answer to that particular point, I don't feel that you're wrong. I doubt that there has been the years of extensive testing that there normally would be with drugs. But anyway, with all drugs, there is always side effects. And some of them, unfortunately, can be quite serious. But the numbers do look very, very low on those side effects. And everyone just has to make their own decision.
Yeah, I think it's like I studied philosophy in at A level, and I can imagine this could be one of the questions that would come up in some sort of exam in years to come. One of the questions that came up in our philosophy exam was there was a person who was trying to poison people and putting stuff in the water, but ended up actually healing people who had very serious illnesses. So should that person go to prison? And the question kind of was, well, what was the intent behind it? What was the reason behind it? And I think with the jab, it depends what kind of approach we take. If we take a very individualistic approach that, I want to look after my own sovereignty and I'm looking after my own body and I'm not 100% convinced of the jab, that's one way of viewing it. Another way of viewing it is a more utilitarian approach where it's the greatest good for the greatest number. So we kind of sacrifice our individuality in order to maybe help others. So whichever route or whichever side of the fence you sit on, from an ethical point of view, nobody is right or wrong. I think it's just about really honouring other people's point of view and allowing those discussions to happen without them getting, to a massive heated debate. But in terms of the jab, I'm happy to have it. In terms of the passport situation, I'm not so happy with that. So Patrick and I even have a different view on that. And that is, perfectly okay, I feel.
Conspiracies are out there, aren't they? I mean, I read that there are quite a few people who are members of my Facebook group who I don't agree with, haven't agreed with over the epidemic, haven't agreed with over Brexit. People have different views to me. I don't exclude them because of that. But one of the threads I was seeing that the general consensus was that Prince Philip had not died, had just died. He died some time ago, and they just decided to launch it now because it was a convenient thing to do. This kind of level of conspiracy is something that I personally, on that particular one, I just don't get it. And I don't think Bill Gates is involved in producing vaccines to make more money. Did Microsoft charge a lot for their products in perhaps a very unfair way? There's an argument for that. They certainly weren't cheap, their licenses. But I think all the big tech giants are not necessarily as pure as driven snow, are they? But I think he does give a lot of money away latterly. A lot of people say, well, he's made that money from other people, and so that's no great shakes. So everyone has a different way of looking at things, but I don't see a great conspiracy around the vaccines themselves because, even if they're not technically a vaccine, they're more suppressants of the spike protein in the actual COVID infection. I actually feel that because all different parts of the world have been racing to produce something to push back on this, you can be sure when the Americans, the Chinese and the Russians are all on the same track to try to do something, there's a reason for it. So I don't take the conspiracy theory on that personally.
But it's an individual choice. I don't think anyone should be forced to take it. And I think if people opt out of taking it, they shouldn't be harassed to take it. But at the same time, I do think that, looking after each other is, for me, something that goes above caring about what could just happen to me individually. But that's
lovely.
just me.
Now, in terms of the birthday chart reading, no one with their birthday this week actually shared their information. However, we did have a lady called Tatiana, and Tatiana was born in Serbia, and Tatiana doesn't actually have her birthday this week. Her birthday is on the 18th of November 1962. Now, Tatiana, we actually have quite an affection for Serbia, because I have 3 colleagues in Serbia who've worked with me for a very, very long time. So we've got Zlatibor, who lives in Novi Sad. We've got Demir, who is in Belgrade, and we have Velibor, who is in Versec. And they work with me on technical stuff on the videos for years. These are highly intelligent, highly lovely people. So we have real affection for your place of birth. But because I don't know where you're living now, Titania, I can't do a solar return. You asked me that there was no need to analyse your chart in any particular way, but I just thought I'd throw out a few things. Your midpoint between the sun and the moon, on the screen you can see that Titania's moon is in the lovely and proud Leo, very close to her Mars, so this gives her a regal presence. She does, as she shared with me, does have her ascendant very close to the fixed star Sirius, which is the brightest star in the heavens, and her ascendant is just under a 1 degree from conjoining with that. But what came out for me, apart from that midpoint at 9 degrees Libra, in the 4th house, so a balance in your home and emotional life, and you're someone who uses your intellect because you've got a lot of 3rd house, so your intellect is very important to you. You have real precision in the way you think about things. Of course, you're a Scorpio, so you can dive deep, and with the Mercury very close to the Sun in the 5th house, I would imagine that you're very creative as well. Also have your vertex very close to the Sun in the 5th house. But what came up for me was in your Chiron position, the 9th house of knowledge, you have Jupiter, which governs the sign of Pisces, very close to Chiron. Now, you probably you might not, you might know this, that President Trump actually has Jupiter conjunct Chiron, but his is in the 2nd house in Libra, well, the formerly President Trump. So people with Chiron on Jupiter can use their knowledge to help others a lot, especially because yours are in the 9th house. So I think giving of knowledge has been something, or an appreciation of higher knowledge, it's been something that's been quite a life journey for you. Whether other people have always been able to tune into your generosity of spirit quite as much as they might have done is another matter. You do also have your North Node in opposition to Saturn, and you've just had your Saturn return. So this is your 2nd Saturn return, of course, and that's happened this year. You're going to have a repeat of that. You had a bit of a nibble last spring when Saturn moved within about 4.5 degrees of your natal Saturn. But that means that your view of where you're most invested, the 8th house, is really being transformed at the moment. So something to do with business, finance, or even a deep committed relationship. But if we look at your progressions, I want to share with you what a progress chart is. So the nativity is what we're born with at that moment of birth, and it's very important to get the time right. Now, a progression is where we count forwards the number of years that someone has been alive. So say someone was 10 years of age, we'd count forwards 10 days and then take a snapshot of where the planets were at day 10 of that person's life. And it's a remarkably ancient form of forecasting called secondary progressions, and it's very, very accurate. Now, obviously, I don't want to mention Titania's age because that would be rather ungallant of a gentleman to do so, but I would say that Titania is a little bit older than 10. But in her progress chart, the Sun is at 25 degrees in Capricorn, which means the moving Pluto in the sky is right on her progressed Sun in the 7th house of relating. So something very powerful is going on around relationships, and I think with Saturn on, it's Saturn return in the 8th house. I feel that perhaps there is some discussion going on about a business venture. You also have in your progressions Mercury is very close to your natal Saturn. So you're thinking very seriously about business matters at the moment. The use of your resources, investments, shares, anything to do with probate could be a key matter. But you also have your progressed moon at this time approaching your midpoint in your nativity. So in the next 3 months, I think there's going to be a big decision about where you live. It could be a renovation. You may decide to downside. You may decide to have some kind of expansion there, like an extension, or refit it, or you may decide to buy another property or move into somewhere else. But something around the home foundations of your situation, I think is going to transform over these next 3 months. And I think it is to do with a key relationship in your situation. So Elisa will share those wheels on the screen. Now, just wanted to say, if you've yet to sign up for your 3 daily horoscope, please see that in the link beneath this video. That's emailed to you every day. So if you use a smartphone, as soon as you turn on your phone in the morning, there's your daily horoscope. You can also check out Elisa's monthly tarot forecast, because Elisa, unfortunately, with both of us, with all the things that we've been trying to achieve recently, it's been very difficult to keep our normal deadlines together. And therefore, bless Elisa, she only got them out there just at the start of this month. And the way YouTube works is if you get your content out way in advance, you've got a much greater chance of getting views. So please see the link below for Elisa's April monthly tarot videos, because they are very good. I feel she does it in a different way to other people. Would you like to explain how you do them?
Thank you. Well, lately I like to sort of use my intuition for how we're going to do the reading, but for the last couple of months we've been pulling 3 tarot cards. And I like to use the tarot cards as a personal development tool. So that's very much about what's happening in our personal life, maybe our career. And then I like to finish up this month with a dragon oracle card, which is more of the spiritual side of things, the more left field side of things. So I like to think that there is a balance between the more earthly plane in the readings and the more spiritual plane as well.
That's terrific, isn't it? And are you going to pull a card for this week
that
gives us an overarching sort of energy for this week as well?
I'll just... So this week I thought we'd use the Soul Journey Oracle cards. These are by James Van Praagh, who I like. So let's have a little look at...
Please send in your suggestions for the thought for the week, because we haven't had any themes being suggested to us in addition. So whatever theme that you feel is appropriate, whether it was joy, whether it was fear, whether it was anxiety, whether it was any concept at all that you feel is important to you, please share that with us, and we'll write them out and put it in the jar for next week's show and pull that out. Also, we did have another person, just briefly, I will say, asking about the means of forecast. I'd just like to say that progression, I guess you could say, was like how we're evolving inside of ourselves. There is a third form of modern astrology forecasting, directions, where it's called the solar arc, where we move all the planets forwards at the same speed as the suns move forward over a person's lifetime. So if someone's 50, we move all their planets forwards 50 degrees. And that's very important on conjunctions, oppositions and squares, the 8th harmonic. We don't use the good guys in the aspects in directions, but progressions and directions, if they're on a critical point in the nativity, then that's when the energy is really amplified. And that's why I feel for Titania, for example, having the moving Pluto in the sky, triggering onto her progressed sun in the 7th house, could be very important around a relationship matter for her. So that just gives you a bit of context. But so the
soul card that came up for this week is courage, and it's just absolutely glorious, the colours on this card. It says, I find the inner strength to face fear with confidence. Courage is that inner, thing that keeps us pushing forwards. It's almost like if we're going into any kind of battle, if we go into something thinking that it's easy, that we're going to win, that it's going to be fine, it doesn't necessarily take much courage, because we've kind of already got it planned out in our head. But if we go into a situation where we're going through it in just blind faith, hoping, this could be as something like going for a new job, moving to a new location, or just telling that person that we fancy them.
But it could also mean if somebody is having a particular health issue at a given time, say they had a skin condition that they were very, very self-conscious about. So going out to the shops, even if it's just around the corner to the local convenience store, may take an enormous amount of courage. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel that anybody really has the right to gauge what level. It's not necessarily the people. It's a bit like the analogy I use for the elite marathon runners.
I was thinking that.
It's not necessarily the people who are physically displaying or manifesting in that old-fashioned sense of being a fighter, a warrior, who's necessarily showing the courage. The person who's the most meek or most timid or the most vulnerable at any given time may be having to max out their courage every single day. I was reading about blind people, and this is not a pleasant story. It's about blind women in South Wales, actually, and how basically inappropriate sexual advances was something they have to deal with a great deal, because they don't have the vision to see the threat come in all the time. Now that's absolutely despicable. But so you can imagine the kind of courage it takes to go out every single day if you're profoundly blind. That's just one disability. Of course, some of the disabilities that are out there are hidden disabilities.
Yeah.
So you could be someone who looks extremely well, doesn't have that skin condition, isn't obviously blind, or not obviously blind, but you may have some other challenge at that particular time, which is requiring great courage.
Yeah, and it's also about, having the courage to stand up and maybe talk about those things and educating people. I was in the queue, I went to the theatre once, and I was in the queue for the bathroom. And a lady went into the disabled bathroom and was shouted at by another lady saying, you're able-bodied, you shouldn't be using the disabled bathroom. But she had a condition, the same as my brother has, Crohn's disease, which is a hidden disability.
Yeah.
And she would have to use that disabled bathroom. But it took her courage in a way to be able to step out of that line and use, something that is there for her, because knowing that people do have these biased judgments and constantly standing up against these things and breaking these things down. I saw a TikTok video of a young girl basically questioning her parents' underlying racism, and it was very difficult for her. She loved her parents, but she felt that their opinions were based on very old-fashioned viewpoints, and she was trying to educate them, and that took a lot for her to do that. So courage sometimes means going up against the status quo, even going up against the people we love sometimes.
Yeah, no, you've nailed that. That's absolutely. Well, Elisa, would you like to share with people where we're up to on the house hunt situation?
Yes, so our Patreons will already know this, because we take our Patreons along on our journey. So if you do want to become a Patreon and get all the, hidden behind the scenes stuff, then we'll leave that link beneath the video. But we are still looking. We're getting closer, we're getting warmer. We did have a road trip last week, which it kind of went well. We got a little bit lost on the way down there. We were a little bit late, and then coming back we ran out of petrol.
Oh my word. Yeah.
We got stranded in a country lane. It started to snow, it was dark, and we set out to walk to find some gas, because luckily we had a
Gas? What?
Gas.
Gas?
I know,
Where are you from?
I've been watching too much American TV.
We needed to find some petrol.
Petrol.
But we did have an empty can. Gas.
And I'm just
we
trying
had
to
a
be
really
inclusive.
good petrol. We had a really good petrol.
I'm trying to be inclusive to our cousins
Being
across the pond.
exclusive to the Brits.
So
God,
we went looking for petrol gas, and we managed to flag down a car or hitchhike to the nearest petrol station, which was 7 miles away. And so they took us 7 miles there. They brought us 7 miles back, and we did end up getting home safe. But it was a bit of a saga.
It was two guys, Kurdish guys, who were from the north of Iraq. Absolutely lovely guys. They were just so kind because Lisa says we're on a country road. We were on a country road, but it wasn't a lane. It was a main road, and the lorry was right behind us. But luckily, the car just pulled off the road, and but we were literally miles from anywhere. And it was really quite ferocious out there with the snow in. So, but so far we've found a couple of houses we like. And it's sort of at that delicate stage of negotiation, and we'll let you know how we do. But from us both, we hope you have a great new moon, Aries new moon week, with lots of positive strands. It is also true to say, I should just tell you that Mars and Jupiter, although Mars is conflicted by Neptune in the first 2 or 3 days, Mars and Jupiter are actually forging a brilliant angle. So we could say that the Jupiterian energy of this week is very, very strong, but we just need to be aware of keeping our feet on the ground. And I think Venus moving into Taurus will definitely help us to do that. So for now, from the A team, it is
Goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from us.
Goodbye.